Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So here's the thing. Schools, they play a huge freaking role in shaping our future citizens, right? In literally shaping our country. Well, the video you're about to see might just have you wondering about where we're headed in terms of race relations in the U.S. You know, this whole thing happened when a very, very brave student at Rosemount High School in Minnesota decided to speak out against, what they felt was clear bias against white kids in the classroom. And very, very brave kid. You got to see this. But before we do, guys, thanks to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. We really, really appreciate the support. If you haven't already, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. Really, really helps us grow, and we really, really appreciate it. So let's get into this.
Hi, my name is Brad Taylor, and I just finished my freshman year at RHS. I've been a part of District 196 schools now for 10 years, and I'm going to give you a glimpse today of what's actually going on inside these schools. Despite the board's attempt to deny it, District 196 schools are quickly becoming a place where promoting activism is actually more important than promoting education. I'll take you back to my first day at RHS this fall. The principal came out and gave us a heartfelt speech about equality and standing together. He began to list countless races, such as Latino, Asian, expressing how much they matter and how important they are. But never once did he mention a race or identity that reflects me, or half the kids that were in the class. Now, members of the board, I know you haven't been to school in a while, and I know none of you, or most of you, don't have any kids left in the school district. But you must admit how uncomfortable it will be to be characterized just by your skin color on the first day of school, and be thought that you were wrong just because of your skin color. So I will never forget the look one of my friends gave me from across the room as we were sitting there listening to this blatant bias being expressed in the so-called equity statement by the leader of our school. To be clear, I don't need you to tell me that I matter, but hearing the condolences given to other races and leaving just one race out, inevitably you'll start to feel like you've done something wrong. And in our principal's attempt to unify us, he instead created unwarranted boundaries and barriers between his students, pitting us against each other based on characteristics that we can't control. In another separate instance, I was told that writing "All Lives Matter" on the whiteboard was political and could be seen as offensive. When I questioned the teacher after class, she told me that she didn't have an answer and she just had to erase it, and it was quickly erased. There are political signs all over RHS, about specific races that matter, specific sexual orientations that matter, and specific perspectives that matter. But when I questioned the RHS administration about how these signs were political, they told me that they were supporting human rights. So when I questioned why the equity statement couldn't represent all students, they told me that to even ask that question was outlandish and offensive.
So here's a little bit of context for you. Right around the time when the whole conversation about critical race theory began making its way into our schools, our young kids' school, our public schools back in 2021, there were some unintended consequences. Maybe, just maybe, the initial intention of CRT might have been to provide, some sort of nuanced perspective on American history. But what it really did was pave the way for what a lot of people argue are just biased attitudes in both public and private places. Now get this. So this young kid, he pointed out how certain equity efforts literally made white students grapple with feelings of inherent guilt. I mean, can you imagine being a young kid and feeling guilty just for being who you are? And not just a fleeting sense of guilt, but one that literally could potentially harm your self-worth and linger literally for your entire life if it's developed at that age. That's heavy stuff, dude. And it doesn't stop there. The narrative that this student paints, suggests it was a calculated approach, one that seemed influenced by a lot of the leading voices on anti-racism like Ibram X. Kendi. And, the term white guilt, it isn't just casually thrown around. It's central to this discussion, and there's more. This school, it seems to be endorsing a one-size-fits-all mindset that's literally just crushing these kids' natural creativity and even their desire to think, to think freely. And you got to see more of this stuff.
And when I asked why that was, they told me, quote, "Whites have a pretty good situation right now," unquote. So is that not racism? Disregarding my question merely because of the color of my skin? To be honest, after enduring a year of the people in charge telling me that I'm a racist and I'm privileged and pointing out our irreversible differences, I've never noticed race more. And it's becoming the first thing I notice when I meet someone, which has never before been the case. RHS administration confidently told me that RHS students and staff are happy with their equity statement. But from my experience in talking with other students, this is not the case. I know many kids who disagree with their teachers, but they're too scared to stand up because they're worried that their grades will be docked and their learning experience will be affected. My honors government teacher, I'm not going to say his name, but he's mentioned that Democrats care more about all people while Republicans only care about themselves. And he's also inferred to us that socialism is better than democracy. He even had a statue. He had a statue of a socialist leader in his classroom. I've been told by a lot of kids that they just stay silent and adjust their schoolwork to reflect an acceptable opinion to secure a good grade. I've been approached by multiple teachers who have told me in private that they just want to say that they agree with me and they support me standing up, but they can't say it in front of the class for fear of being disciplined by the administration in some way or losing their jobs. There is clearly only one way to think in this district, and that is that they are teaching their kids to shut up if they don't agree. Now, members of the board, I want you to take a good look at yourselves in the mirror tonight and ask, are you really standing up for the equality of all people, or are you just pushing a damaging political ideology on our students? A fellow coworker at my job, who by the way is of color, discreetly told me that the schools seem to be pushing a very leftist agenda in class. This proved that not everyone is happy with your school, and not everyone who isn't happy is white. Now, due to all these instances I've mentioned and many more that I can't fit in this 5-minute speech, I've decided to leave this district and continue school on a private Christian school online. And there will be sacrifices, and I will not get to walk in the graduation ceremony or attend milestones at RHS, but I will be able to learn in an environment that is not intent on punishing me daily for my skin color and political views. Now, regardless of how you take my speech, whether you just shrug it off as malarkey or Fox News talking points, I encourage you to think about it, because someday I'm going to be a leader. I may be the president, a governor, or just a professional golfer, but I will never stop believing that everybody has value, no matter their skin color or personal beliefs, and it's a shame that you're not going to be able to say that I was an alumni of RHS in District 196. Thank you.
So there's a deeper, darker layer to this stuff, and it's about students feeling held back from speaking up, whether that's in class discussions or on their written assignments, and why. Well, they're worried that they might get a bad grade or be seen in some sort of negative light, something that's going to hurt them. This whole idea of suppressing genuine opinions and questions, this self-censorship is the only way to put it, is the exact opposite of what schools are supposed to stand for. And the long-term effects of that, I don't know, but they can't be good. It's pretty freaking concerning. And Dennis Prager from PragerU talked a lot about this. And, what he said really hit home for me, that it's not worth to sugarcoat or modify your words, even in something as seemingly unimportant as a college essay, just to please someone or to secure a good grade. Manipulating your words and not being true to what you actually believe, it does set you on a slippery slope. Before you know it, you're caught in this trap of short-term lies because they just seem convenient in that moment. And, I don't know, man. You ever wonder why, everything is all about the evils of the white guy? All it is, I think, is a way to try and atone for some historical injustices, which really is confusing considering that the left really doesn't seem to have much of an understanding of history to begin with. I'm surprised they care this much. I can't really figure that out. But here's where it gets complicated. If we're trying to fix past wrongs, well, we have this risk of promoting this new brand of racism under the guise of anti-racism. And we've already seen this, manifest itself in things like affirmative action, these calls for reparations, and in the absolute freaking destruction of some of these kids' schools. And honestly, the more I dive into the dialogue that we have on race in these days, the more I'm reminded of something the rapper and podcaster Zubi said. And he said the demand for racism is greater than the supply. And that is so freaking right on.
Basically, any Western, particularly English-speaking Anglosphere country, these conversations are going on. And I think that the demand for racism has been much higher than the supply for a long time.
I see what you mean, but who's vested in that then? Who has a vested interest in there being more racism than there really is?
People who profit from it.
Which is who?
There are organizations, there are groups, there are politicians, there are activists whose entire livelihood and reason for being would cease to exist if everyone just said, actually, we all agree that racism is bad.
So it's a bit ironic, isn't it? You know, while we're trying to distance ourselves from a troubled and racially prejudiced past, we're just circling back to a new form of prejudice. We don't call it racism anymore. We call it justice. We call it equity. You know, schools, you know, which should be literally the epicenter of objective learning and personal growth, all they are is becoming hotbeds for this intersectional viewpoint. And truthfully, I'm genuinely concerned, man, that this is going to stop us from ever achieving a society where we actually do judge individuals by their character and not their skin color. But anyway, guys, that's just my take. Let me know yours in the comments. And if you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.